Okay, let's move on. Let's keep the discussion flowing. We are up to Fans Pulse Lap 3, which is the final lap of episode 14. Remarkably, you have voted, we have listened. We recently talked about bringing a number of things back into Speedway. We proposed the return of the match race, for example, to use one example. And, you know, it's not for the sake of going back to what happened before. It's not for the sake of taking a backward step. It's not just a copy and paste for the sake of it. It's actually to try and cherry pick some of the proven successful features of Speedway that we believe, as a group believe, that supporters would jump at in a heartbeat to come out and support. And another proposal from 360 Speedway is to consider bringing back another former fixture on the Speedway calendar of some decades back. We're going to test the 360 Speedway waters on the return of the Interleague Cup is what I'm going to call it. Now, first things first, of course. This whole discussion topic is premised on 2026 there still being at least 2 leagues, right? Because if rumours are to be believed, we might be going one big league next year. But on the assumption that doesn't happen, and there is still a top flight and a second tier, Stuart Robson, let's bring you in first of all. Do you have any particular memories, Stuart? And would you subscribe to the benefits of bringing back an attractive Interleague Cup type fixture?
It would be difficult to do. It would be great to do for the guys in the clubs that's in the sort of second division, let's call it, rather than you got the top league and then you got the second league. So, because then they get to see a few riders who they tend not to see there. You know, they might get the likes, Jack Holder there and Brady Kurtz and etc. Dan Bewley, to name but a few. So that would be a good thing. The issue with it is a lot of the riders ride in both leagues, and so you might end up with a bit of a clash of your two clubs are riding against each other. Who do you ride for? And the other thing is there can be quite one-sided meetings in this case as well. Because if you might be a number 1 or 3 or 5 in the second league, but you might only be number 6 or 7 in the first league. So the difference in it's not so much standard. It's just you have more riders that have high averages basically. So the can be a bit one-sided. The reserves from one league going against the reserves in another league is sometimes a bit too one-sided, but it's good and bad. It's got good points and bad points, really. It's I'm sure I have done it at some point. I certainly remembered having it, but I can't really remember any details, whether I was riding or if I was watching it or whatever. Yeah. But it could be. I mean, they'd have to have a good think about how they would do it if they did do that, because obviously, like I say, there's too many clashes of riders riding for 2 clubs.
Yeah, I'm going to. I mean, listen, you make some valid points here. The doubling up, doubling down of riders, it would obviously be a bit of an issue. But I'm sure we could circumvent it by, perhaps that rider always rides for the home team in the home leg, and obviously there might need to be use of guests or whatever it might be. There need to be some thinking about the format of it. To your point, but it's not. It wouldn't be impossible. Stuart McDonald, do you have any fond or otherwise recollections of interleague challenges or interleague fixtures?
I remember a few years ago when just started racing, and I think Cradley Heath came to Sheffield to race Glasgow.
Yes, he did.
And wow, that was, Greg Hancock, Billy Hamill, Simon Cross, I think Andy Graham,
I believe so, yeah.
Scott Smith. I think Gert Hamberg might have been riding as well. And I think Glasgow, they had Les Collins guesting, if I remember correctly. Somebody was guesting, I think, for Glasgow. But what a meeting. And do you know what? The amount of fans that came from local clubs to watch it, because it was massive. Greg and Billy were on the edge then of greatness, but it was a great buzz. And like Robbo says, you would generally have a one-sided event. You would have, you've got, like he says, reserves in the away team that would be heat leaders in the home team. But it's a great thing for fans. I think to have a bigger club coming down, like you say, Brady Kurtz, Jack Holder, Jason Doyle, Saibutinoff. These guys come into your lower leagues would be great. I think I watched one as well. I think it was at Edinburgh versus Berwick. I think at the time, was it Kelvin Tatum? I think it was Berwick. Robbo, was it? It was Richard Knight. It was Jimmy News. It was Jimmy. So there you go. I mean, we went to Edinburgh to watch that, and most of the Glasgow fans went. And I think it's great for the fans. I mean, again, sometimes it's a little bit one-sided, but I think if you've got enough promoters that have got a big back pocket, they could probably make it a little bit more even, if you know what I mean. but not overall, it's great for fans, it's great for Speedway, and it gives some of the lower teams a chance to race against the big boys, which in our day it didn't happen. Nowadays it's like Robbo says, who do they race for? They've got a senior team and they race for both leagues. But I'm a big fan of it. I think it was great. Glasgow was a great experience, and I was racing then, not for Glasgow, but I was racing then, and I still loved it as a fan. And I think it's great for the sport to have big riders coming to your local club.
100%, Stuart. You know, I think it ticks lots of boxes. It's something we've not seen in a while. It's a bit unusual. To Robbo's point, it will allow riders to come to your local track that you might otherwise never get to see. I remember British Speedway was piloting for a year or two, promotion and relegation, and I can remember Edinburgh won the championship level and Wolverhampton were bottom of the top flight, and I remember there was a home and away relegation clash between Edinburgh and Wolverhampton, and that, you know, perhaps on track there was a big difference in the respective team strengths, but from a supporter's point of view, they didn't really care about that. It was a big occasion, and there was always that possibility that their team might just upset the apple cart, Stuart.
It was. I mean, you talk about some of the riders that have obviously been successful and dropped down leagues, and you get the opportunities. But again, you know, I think just to look at the riders that you could get, you know, people go and watch entertainment, and you look at some of the riders that we've had at different tracks, and big riders, you know, reserve riders, junior riders, whatever you want to call them, and it's just attraction for the fans. You know, I mean, years ago, the playoff thing would have been sustainable, because then people, you know, the leagues had a little bit more money, but now you couldn't imagine, you know, big teams dropping down, because you've obviously got to have a different calibre rider. The pay structure's slightly different, and you know, who are you going to go and watch every week? Jason Doyle and Saibutinoff, or, you know, no disrespect, but whoever, I'm not going to say any names. I think it was great years ago, and I know they've trialled it recently, but I just think now it's Speedway's in such a state. I think in this league, it's that difficult to have two successful big leagues. I don't know what's going to happen next year. I don't know what the rest of the guys think, but I think we're heading towards one big league, the way it seems to look.
Nigel, you know, almost every week on 360 when you've featured, you know, you mentioned Speedway needs more entertainment. We need to entertain the fans. I'm still waiting to see your T-shirt, Nigel, with that printed on it. But would the idea of introducing or reintroducing some sort of interleague cup, does that tick the boxes, Nigel, in terms of giving the fans what they want?
Yeah, I can't see it happening now. Purely
Stop
because...
it, Nigel. Stop it.
No, well, what Stuart said, both Stuarts, what they've said. I remember riding in it, when I was at Stoke. It was the Interleague Cup, and Stoke were drawn against Reading, and we had Per Jonsson here, Jan Anderson.
Wow.
And I don't know who else you got for him. I only say Per Jonsson because I led him for 3 3/4 laps, and he passed me running into the bloody flag and beat me. I'd led him all the way around and he beat me. But, you know, like Max says, you know, it was good for the crowd to see them riders. Not quite some popular maybe down at Stoke, because they could see them riders at Cradley, at Coventry, at Wolverhampton. When you go up to Scotland, Edinburgh, Glasgow, they've got to travel a long way to see them riders. So it was great for Scotland to have them meetings, I'm sure. It would be good if it could happen again. I can't see it. And because, as we've all said, and I think we all agree on it, it's going towards one league this year, isn't it? But let's hope. Yeah. One league, 6 riders, no doubling up. Put the kids in. If the foreigners don't want to ride in it, bugger them up and let's put some more kids in.
That might be the winning formula, Nigel. And obviously, in the fullness of time, that if it is that will be revealed, etc. But just for the sake of a few more minutes to see out this particular discussion topic, let's assume that we do stick with the two leagues by some miracle or other. And to your point, Nigel, being based in northernmost Glasgow for all these years, I personally have been a bit starved of seeing some of the superstars, and I still very well remember the very odd occasion that we got to see Ivan Major or Bruce Penhall, Zenon Plech, Sean Moran came to Blantyre back in the day, and it was we talked about Hans Nielsen having some match races at Glasgow at Sheffield earlier, and they're standout things because they're such a rarity in this part of the world. And
I mean, there's no reason. Well, I don't know. There's plenty of reasons why it couldn't happen, but it could be made happen. If there should be 2 leagues next year, and I don't know how many clubs. Let's say there's 6 in the first division. Why couldn't they have a interleague cup between the top 6 in the first division, the top 6 in the second division? I know, like, you start going to the bottom of the league, and there will be a massive difference. But it's Poole Road against one of the top 6 out of the first division. Redcar, and I don't know. It probably would be to a degree one-sided, but it would just be another competition, just some more entertainment and seeing different riders. So, the top 6 against the top 6. Could work, couldn't it?
That's a good shout, Nigel. Stuart Robson, how about this as a radical idea? Why don't we scrap the existing knockout cups as they currently stand? We introduce a Speedway FA Cup style competition, and we open it up to Premiership, Championship, if they still exist, and even NDL. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
Why not go the full hog and do a proper FA Cup style Speedway event?
With the no disrespect to the NDL guys, they're at the start of their careers, the majority of them, and they're not quite at the standard to go up against certainly the sort of top league, and it would just be a complete walkover.
What if, Stuart? Sorry to interrupt. What if there was an agreed format? So if it's NDL versus Premiership can only bring, I don't know, one heat leader, and they have to weaken their team basically to within certain parameters.
Well, I mean, there'd have to be certain parameters, certainly some parameters about it, because the difference between the leagues is quite large. Really, is a big difference. But it's an interesting point. It could be looked at, and maybe something could come of it. It works with football, doesn't it? So why couldn't it work with Speedway?
Yeah. No, listen, you've got to think positively, and you've got to think out the box sometimes. And I know to some supporters this might sound a bit gimmicky and a bit a bit of a stretch to imagine it, but with some thought around the format, if it's Premiership versus Premiership or Championship versus Championship or NDL versus NDL, nothing changes. But if there's a bit of an interleague element to it, then the format must, to some extent, try to semi-equalise the team strengths. Listen, it might have some legs, and it would clearly be a bit different to what we have today. And I think what Speedway fans are crying out for is a bit of a refresh. So yes, one big league would refresh it because the variety would be reintroduced. But if that didn't come about for various financial reasons or whatever it might be, maybe some other means of freshening things up and giving people a bit of variety is something that we should try to reintroduce.
Do you know, Derek, what Speedway needs is a Barry Hearn. It needs a Barry Hearn. Yeah. It does. You look at what he's done with the sports he's been involved in for the last 10 years, and all about money, but he's transformed them into the global sports that they are now. I mean, you look at darts, boxing. We had years ago, I think Nigel will remember, obviously you guys will, but we had Terry Russell, who was fantastic for the Speedway. Riders, tracks, bikes, keeping it going, financing it. And we're missing somebody like that now. All the old school guys, the Dugards, the Beatons, like Chris, like Nigel says, Chris Van Straten, he's been the backbone of Speedway in the UK for 40, 50 years. And we just need a little bit more old school input and a little bit more old school restructuring. And I think that would certainly bring us back into the level that British Speedway was always at years ago. Because let's be serious now, we know that it's not where it needs to be.
Yeah,
I think it needs a complete somebody that's not got any involvement with the club running it, making the decisions rather than the man who runs a club making the decision. Because you'll always go a little bit for your own ways, won't you?
Yeah.
And I think Chris Van Straten, I think he did try to do the right thing for Speedway rather than probably looked after Wolverhampton in it as well. But I think Chris Van Straten was the last one who really sort of tried to push the sport forward. I can always remember being told, and this is from very good sources, I won't name names, but when Sky Television came in and they put the big money in years ago, I think it was Chris Van Straten, well, I know it was, it said, whatever you do, don't spend all your money on the riders. Look after it. And what's happened? Where's the money gone? It's gone to the riders. And that's just escalated from there. And the crowd have gone down and the wages have gone up. I'm not saying the riders don't deserve it. Don't get me wrong, I am. But unfortunately, there isn't the money there to pay them now, is there? So if we can't afford them, we can't have them.
And to your point, Nigel, you know, just to use a ridiculous example, but if British Speedway was to appoint Derek Smith to be to mastermind its future, right? I rightly would be accused of having a bias to Glasgow or Scotland or Northern tracks, right? And you know, for each of us on this call, you could be accused of having a similar bias. So to your point, Stuart McDonald, you mentioned a Barry Hearn. It would literally need to be someone who has had no affiliation, no engagement with the sport of Speedway ever.
Well, 100% agree with you, Derek, but you know that'll never happen, and that's the thing. You know, you're always going to have somebody. I mean, Barry Hearn, I think, is a big Brentford fan, so you know when it comes to Leighton Orient, I think he owns Leighton Orient. You're always going to have somebody involved that's got a love for Speedway. To get somebody like that in Speedway, they need to have the bite, whether it be Sheffield, you know, whoever, Glasgow, Edinburgh, Workington. It would be somebody generally, but if we could have a Barry Hearn that had no Speedway acknowledgement, no experience, that would just put it bang straight on the map, then great. It would be great, but quite difficult to come by.
Yeah, listen. We've kind of strayed into inevitably some of the future direction of British Speedway, and I just want to say again. I said this last week, and I'm going to say it again. So I have received comments on our WhatsApp page, WhatsApp channel. And some emails from 360 speedsters out there who are quite keen that we begin to talk about next year. And you know, we're not even out of the month of July yet, so I would prefer us to focus on this season. Let's kind of see out this season through to its end point, and there'll be lots to talk about with teams and league placings and results and all that good stuff. And absolutely, like I said last week, absolutely, we will do 2026 to death. I could envisage that we will dedicate a number of episodes to it. But you know, we'll do our best to try and be as interactive and read out as many messages and thoughts from you on what you would like to see British Speedway do for 2026. So I just want to acknowledge we will absolutely be all over what's going to happen in the winter and what we would like the outcome to be for next season. But for now, for episode 14, that's us at the cross the finishing line for another episode. Once again, if you've only watched part 4 of episode 14, please be mindful that there are 4 parts to each of our episodes. So if you haven't watched parts 1, 2 or 3, please make a point of seeking them out on social media or within our YouTube channel. And like I said earlier, there are 90 plus videos, 16 or 17 hours worth of Speedway discussion on our YouTube channel. Search us out, 360 Speedway. Stuart McDonald, Stuart Robson, Nigel Crabtree, once again an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed our conversation tonight as always. Thank you very much for your thought, your thinking, your good humour and your input. To you out there, keep trackside, enjoy the weather over the weekend, over the course of the next week. Keep supporting your team, look after yourselves. See you next week. Goodbye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye. Cheers, thanks.